I'll dream until I make it real, and all I see is.
Welcome back to Mentorship Mondays with Michelle and Maren. We are back again. Hi, Maren. How's it going?
Hi, Michelle. I'm doing okay. I have horrible allergies, so if I like aggressively sneeze in the middle of recording, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'll try to like muffle it as much as possible, but my
It's
eyes
that
itch, my
time of
throat
year.
itches, my nose itches. So it is, it is. It's so bad. But anyways, how are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good. It's been it was a really good week. Good, busy. Um, Maya is still having seizures throughout the week. She hasn't gone
Mm,
into, we're still waiting for her phone call, but I will say that she is a trooper. She's going through them really well, and she's got a girlfriend here too. So, that's made it
that
really
helps.
nice. The surprise is
Yeah.
now is now everybody's knowledge. So that's really good.
Yes.
Yeah. But
Good. Oh, I bet she was so happy.
yeah, it's been a good week. I will say,
Good.
I don't know if you're noticing this, but I sure am, that the amount of changes that people are going through, and really in different stages, so the amount of changes are just immense. And not that they're all easy. A lot of, as we know, change is wonderful. And I posted something on my Facebook story this week, a little quote that I just absolutely love, which is, we as human beings are extremely powerful, and one of our most powerful abilities is change. And that is a beautiful ability. It's not easy. And I think we all know times in our lives where we've hung on with our claws onto something in resistance to change. But change brings so much. Change can be challenging. And, usually when we have some change, we're letting go of something. We're letting go of
Yeah.
something. And sometimes that letting go is like, whew, good. Like, I am ready to let go of that. I am done. And sometimes it's a little harder to let go. But we are changing beings, and we are the only beings that consistently can change. And we can put our intention into what we would like to change. So, as a challenge, I challenge everyone to think about that. And where can you use change to empower yourself? Where can you use that feeling, that idea, to get yourself into a new place, whether it be changing your hair color, whether it be changing your mindset? Where can you apply that to your week this week? But how was your week?
Oh my goodness. Well, um, I have a story for you, but first I have to say that's such a relevant thing because I did a meditation this morning, a letting go meditation. So like letting go old energies to like welcome new energies and stuff. So that's
Mm-hmm.
and like letting go feelings of resistance. So or turbulent feelings or something like that. So very interesting that you bring that up.
There's always purpose to everything. Always.
I know. So full circle. Okay, but no. Michelle, I need your advice, your help. I don't know. I have a story for you, and I just really want to hear your perspective of it because
Yeah.
it was a really, I don't know what the word would be, jarring
Mm-hmm.
incident. So I have a friend who was really sick, and doctors couldn't really pinpoint a cause of the ailments. And my friend just kind of got sicker and sicker and sicker, and then found spirituality. And through spirituality, and that's how we kind of connected because obviously I'm a spiritual person. Um, we would like share, spiritual stuff. Like I kind of was like that support person through their spiritual awakening. And as they like would learn spiritual information, and it's, wild concepts about, just the universe and our ability to heal ourselves and, the true meaning of the Bible and all that. And so I was like that one person that they could talk to about all of it.
Mhm.
And anyways, and they would do like group healings and did energy work and past life stuff to just really heal. And I mean, it was remarkable, the healing, like absolutely remarkable how much better and vibrant and how much strength that he got back from all this spiritual healing. And it was like the most successful success story I've ever heard. It was unbelievable. And anyways, so he also turned to divination to start healing and asking his guides, like, should I do this treatment or that treatment? And the, guides would say, should I, do this or that? And so it kind of turned into a little bit of maybe like too much. I mean, but it was like there was valid, like, I'm doing this divination, my guides are saying this, and I'm getting better. So it was like working, and there was a lot of trust built into the divination. But then I think it was like almost too much reliance on the divination, maybe. But anyways, so through the divination, his guides told him that we were going to write a book, which I've been told I was going to write a book before. I figured it'd be about like just my awakening, but I was like, oh, I've been told I'm going to write a book before. I didn't realize it'd be with you, but okay, like I don't want to like, say, no, that's not going to happen, because that could totally happen. Like it's,
Right.
you never know where you're going to be next week.
Right.
And, but he said we weren't allowed to tell anybody about the book. And so I was like, oh, okay. And I just didn't really think anything of that. Like I thought, I don't know. I just kind of brushed that detail off. And, but anyway, so kind of a few weeks went by, and just kind of like getting a lot of rapid information from the guides that was being texted to me. And like, again, I feel like the awakening happens so fast, and you do get such a flood of information that it wasn't like, I wasn't like on guard about it, but I guess I would say I wasn't like, it wasn't like a red flag, but I was on guard about like, wow, information is starting to come really fast. This is a lot different than it used to be. But still, again, who am I to judge? Like, he's having an awakening, and it's amazing, and it's healing him. And so just moving on. But then I got a call from him that I needed to leave my house immediately because there was like, I don't know, secret agents or something that were going to come and basically kill me if they saw me, because they don't want this book to come out, that they've like viewed the future and they've seen this book and they don't want this book to come out. And that I need to go into hiding with him, and we need to write this book. And I have to leave my phone behind, and I can't see my kids, but I could FaceTime them through like some app. I'd have to quit my job. And these ideas are very unlike him. He's a very, very nice, sane, level-headed person that, believes in family. Like, so it was obviously very, caught me off guard. It made me really nervous and scared, because I was like, oh, I don't think that there's anybody out to get me, but it made me nervous and scared for him that he's had such a departure from his true like mental state.
Yeah.
And so I told him I'd have to call him back. Let me think about it. I'll have to call you back. And I talked to my husband. I was like, what do I do? Like, I'm so nervous for him. And so he just said, well, you just have to tell him you can't do it. And so I called him back, and I just said, like, I can't do this. I can't leave my family. I can't quit my job. And I said I would have my husband on alert to make sure that there was nobody by my house or coming by my house. And he was kind of confrontational about it, like kind of like, no, you have to, no, we have to write this book. Like you're going to be hurt, like really panicked and, you know, slightly, not like confrontational, but just like pushy, I guess. And I was like, okay, well, I'll call you back in an hour. And, anyways, he called me like 20 minutes later and he sounded completely normal. And he was like, I am so sorry. I checked with my guides and that was a false alarm. And no one's coming to your house to hurt you. I'm so sorry. I feel really bad. I'm so sorry. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm so glad no one's coming to my house. And, thank you for calling me. And that's kind of where we left it. And it was just like shocking, kind of like the switch of personalities. And then later I did check on him and he was embarrassed and he was really upset that, his divination technique and tools that he used to communicate with his guides would be so wrong. And like for a long period of time, like he had kind of like had that thought for at least 24 hours. So yeah, it just makes me sad. Like makes me sad because I feel like this is the dark side of spirituality. Like here's someone, or this is where spirituality gets a bad name. It's like, here's someone who is like seen the miracles of God. I kid you not. It is unbelievable the changes in his health. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And like truly nothing short of a miracle of how quickly he was able to recover. And once he started learning the principles of energy and healing and God, or true God source. And you want it to just be like this happy ending and you want it and then there's this and you're like, no, like, I mean, I'm glad he was able to recover. I'm glad he's back to his normal mindset, but it just breaks my heart for him. And like, it just makes me so sad that spirituality can go awry. So I don't know. So what are your thoughts on this?
That's a really tough one because it's actually more common, than we might think. Part of the reason why we don't always hear about it or hear about the full picture of it, we might witness something in someone, but it's because a lot of people don't know where to go. That's why it's really amazing that he has you and that you have the knowledge and are grounded enough to kind of see and feel the truth in it.
Yeah,
There's a couple
I felt that,
things.
Michelle. Like I was like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
No,
I Googled, I was like, what, like, because you could tell it was like some kind of like psychosis, like it was like a break from reality. And you Google and it says, oh, go see your healthcare professional. And I'm like, a healthcare professional isn't going to understand spiritual healing, like a healthcare professional isn't going to acknowledge anything that he's been through or any of the progress that he's made. Like, so it does make you feel very alone. So it is nice that he does have me, I guess. But yeah, it's just such a hard situation.
It is very hard. And a couple things that come forward is like, why? Why did that happen? What exactly did happen? What's the purpose for that happening? And how do we How do we recognize that? So if you look back into your friend's history, so you were saying that there was health related issues prior. So there was healing done from the health issues. So when somebody's having an awakening and health, the loss of a loved one, it's often a trauma when we're awakening. And especially when we have a very drastic awakening, there's often trauma that has come from it. And that trauma, so when you go from this state of feeling helpless, hopeless, to then feeling empowered, the truth is, in the state of our journey, it is not a grounded source energy that, how do I explain this? Let me say this in a better way. It's kind of like a false power. And it doesn't mean that it's not source energy that has worked through and healed. It's the stage of the mind accepting the process that's happening. And so when the mind has been used to being sick and then something happens, the ego part then identifies with, oh my goodness, all of these new things, my guide, spirit, all of these things that are so enlightening and feel so good. When you have felt so low for such a long time and you connect to something that feels so good and you're experiencing, because he's experienced miracles. He has truly experienced miracles. And no one else can truly understand what he's experiencing unless you've been in that state, unless you've walked in that in his shoes. Now, what's happening, so if we look at it on a vibrational standpoint, what's happened is he's bridging himself from one state to another. But because the awakening process often comes in with this big rush in the beginning, there's this rush of energy. And what happens is we then start to kind of find our new set point. And so we are continuously looking to find that rush of energy. And the path of awakening is not the path of having our guides tell us what to do, because that's no different than not being awake and following on the outside of us as what to do, because our guides are not outside of us, it is part of us. So we're on a path of being able to trust ourselves and the source energy within us. So he was using divination to guide him through his journey. That's not wrong, but there was a dependency that was being built on it. So why did that happen? Well, one thing that comes forward in what was this experience for him was to show him that his discernment and practicing his own discernment is extremely important, and that it's guidance. It's not, we're going to tell you what to do. We're going to tell you to turn left. We're going to tell you to turn right. Now we're going to tell you to do this, do this, do this. It's guidance to continuously trust the experience that we're having here and the decisions that we are making. And that happens over time, right? So that experience was there to allow him to break that cycle of dependency and just start to integrate and ground a lot of these new ideas and experiences. Because when we're being opened up to layers of so much greater than the box that we've been in for a long time, when we start to realize that there is alternate reality, there's other ways of dealing with things, there are so many things that we were never exposed to that are very real. But we get to decide what we bring into our experience. We're the ones here on earth. God's source is within us. And so building that connection of trust is also knowing that Spirit may guide us and give us information, but we may not be ready to hear it yet. We may be in a space where we would rather choose something that our brain's telling us to do because of fear. And so that's what was coming in for him, was fear. So when I look
Yeah.
at it from a healing standpoint, there was a lot of um, trust. It's to deepen trust. It's challenging trust to then deepen it again, and fear. And so from your standpoint, hearing his story, the first thing that you caught on to, of course, was the fear that he was feeling. And you know that fear is not what our guides instill us with. They will never
Right.
put in front of us a hurry and do this now or else. Now, like if there's something that is dangerous, that can be avoided, that we don't need to experience, guides have been known to give a warning. Don't go that way. Don't do this. Like those things do happen, but
Yeah.
it's
I
generally the
think,
mind, the ego that is taking us
yeah.
through that. Yeah.
I mean, he kind of said that too. He was like, I know, like looking back on it, I know that guides, won't come from a place of fear, but I also know guides, like if your house was burning, guides would say, don't go in there. So, like, where is that fear, But I actually have a kind of a crazy story when you talk about that.
Yeah.
Um, I was a kid and I heard someone, I don't know who it was, my guide, maybe, I don't know. I forgot about this story. So funny. I'm like, I had no psychic experiences as kids. And then like,
Yeah. And then you realize how
and then I'm
much
like, oh
actually,
wait, that
yeah.
was a psychic experience. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
But we were watching fireworks for the 4th of July. And my mom had just bought a convertible and we had the top down and we were looking good, And
Yeah.
I literally was like a fourth grader, and I'm like, man, I look good in this convertible. Like I had that like thought. And then literally I heard a voice say, you'll look better with your seatbelt on. And I was like, oh, you're right. I don't have my seatbelt on. And I put my seatbelt on, and literally a minute later, we got in a car accident.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
there
There's
wasn't
a
any
perfect
fear. It
example.
wasn't like you better put your
No.
seatbelt on because you're going to get in a car accident.
Right.
It was like a
Right.
very pleasant thought, like you look cooler with a seatbelt
Right.
on, you know?
Right.
And
Right.
I will
That's a
know,
very
yeah.
good
And it's so,
example.
yeah. It's so funny because and I'm like analyzing that moment now too. It was a male voice and it did come from my male side, like as I remember that memory. So it's like I've always had that male on
Yeah.
the right side.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So I
Hmm.
digress.
Well,
Back to this. So yes, so discernment, they're not going to have fear.
yeah, they're not gonna come forward with fear. And like the other thing too is, so why does that information come out? Well, in whatever divination he was using, when you overuse, so when you're continuously going back to your pendulum or cars or anything, the more that you use it in a way that is to push for information, the less dependent the response is going to be, because it's coming from a place of needing an answer for what's the reason why you need this information. Because what we learn over the course of our journey is that what is meant to come to you will come to you. You make the decisions, take the information that you get, act upon what you can act upon, take care of yourself, take care of your responsibilities, do the best that you can do with what you have right now, and do your best to not walk with the mindset of, I can't do this until this happens. Stay present and grounded with yourself. And when you go to use divination or speak to your guides, they're not there to give you that validation, because the whole process is teaching you to trust. And trust comes in layers. The awakening process is undoing all the doubts, all of the other people's ideas of what you should be doing, who you are, how to function in the world. You're undoing all of those things to get to the core of who am I? Why am I here? What do I want to do? What has happened in my story here on earth? What is not any longer valuable for me to hold these thoughts, hold these beliefs? And so through that process, we deepen the trust and deepen the relationship with our guide, the relationship with God, with Source. Because it's almost like, well, it's growing up, it's maturing, it's spiritually maturing. And so here's the other thing, because we can get into like secret agents, other realms, other beings, all those things. There are things there that do happen and that we do work with, that maybe for a part of the population that doesn't even touch upon that would find that absolutely crazy, right? And I'll touch on my own experience, because I'll just explain this. When I first had my awakening, so I was right through my cancer diagnosis was really the core part of my awakening. And that's when I recognized at that point that I couldn't live the way I had been living anymore. And that, I remember that came from the time I was diagnosed, the day I was diagnosed, right up until when I started treatment. And I remember the moment that I thought this, because I got the results back from my bone scan. And they said the cancer had already spread to the lymph nodes, but it wasn't in my bones, and they didn't see it anywhere else in my body, just a tumor in the lymph node area. And that was like a light went on, and I was like, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. But I have to change the way that I'm living. I have to stop surviving, and I have to start taking responsibility for myself. That was a very hard thing to admit to myself, but this wasn't a conversation I was having with anyone else. And I didn't know how I was going to start. And this is where I started with my shopping cart story of putting shopping carts back instead of leaving it for someone else, or putting things back in the grocery store that, if I'm not going to buy it, I'm going to walk it all the way back to the shelf that I got it from, instead of leaving it as a metaphor, not leaving my problems for everybody else to fix. Not, I had so many things happen in my life, and I was stuck in many stories of being a victim. I didn't see it that way, and I don't think everybody else saw it that way. But I was having realization of that at that point, and realizing how much that was not helping me. I was sabotaging myself over and over and over. Now, for anyone that hadn't spent time with me in a very long time, my spiritual connection was something I kept within my family, that I kept kind of to myself. There were people close to me that I would say things, or I would express things to. I had friends that I did spiritual circles with, that I called girls' night, but then I had other friends that couldn't understand why I spent time with these friends, because they were like, they're nothing like you. Why do you spend time with them? But I couldn't tell friends on this side, because they made fun of it. They made fun of spiritual stuff, or of all that. So I would keep things separate because of the perception, because of how I knew they were being perceived, I was being perceived. So I did that kind of thing for a long time. And it was very interesting. And it was kind of, I say it kind of was like a science experiment to me, looking back on it. When I finally stepped out of the metaphysical closet, when I stepped out and said, all right, like, I know what I'm doing, meaning I know I'm meant to do something with this. And I stepped out in a way that was sharing. I think it was a Facebook group I did first. And I said the healing heart. And I stepped out and did that as my first outer step. Well, that was 3 years after I was first diagnosed with cancer. And so like I've said many times in my hospital bed, I've been studying and doing inner work and working with myself to the point where I was very withdrawn from everybody. I didn't, I wasn't socializing. So I was understanding a lot about myself. So you can see if
You,
somebody didn't
it was
have
like
the
the dark night of
understanding.
the soul period.
Right, right. But there's other people like really concerned about me. And I mean, I didn't even know that then. But some people are like, what's happening with her? Like, what is going on? Why does she not come to anything anymore? Why does she never show up to anything anymore? But I needed to be on my own. I was having a very hard time, even in family gathering. I was having a hard time. So for the first time in my life, I was making a choice of where I wanted to be and where I didn't want to be based on how I felt. Whereas previous to that, I would just do I would just do it, whether I felt good or not, because I couldn't handle upsetting everybody. So it was a very empowering time for me. So I felt like I was building up my own power, my own trust, my own healing journey. But to the outside, it was very like, what's going on? So when I stepped out and started doing things, it was a very stark difference to those that, hadn't known that about me or had been close to me in a different way.
Oh
And
yeah.
and the reason why I bring that up is because I'm not the only one. There's many of us that have done that. So that perception of, and just think about this for a minute. Michelle got diagnosed with serious trauma. She's got a little boy with autism, another child with autism, all these things going on. Her parents, her father's ill. You could really look at, and yes, all of those things have been things I've had to work through and look at. And that's been the greatest part of my healing journey. But from a perspective of somebody that's not uh, going through this process, and it was said, because things would get back to me, it was said, Michelle's gone crazy. She's lost her mind. She's cut people out of her life. She's doing this, she's doing that. And by the time that started to come to me, I had to really learn to let go of other people's perceptions. But at the same time, there are times where somebody may be going through something that is, say, taking them away or taking them into a space that is not healthy. So the next thing would be, well, how do you recognize that? Right? Like, how do you recognize when somebody really is going through something? So, like, for your friend, it's very unique because he's experiencing all these miracles and all these things that are, yes, they are very real. And he is on a journey. He is not in psychosis, but he had these moments that kind of pulled him away, ungrounded. I mean, other things were coming up in my mind too, like, different like entities, different vibrations, different
Well,
energies that
you
could pull you
mentioned,
away.
yeah, you mentioned discernment, and I was wondering, like when you use divination, even though he has the intention every time that he's talking to his guides, does he need to clarify every single time, like who is communicating with me, or
It
does intention just work? Because I wonder if someone else was on the other end at that point, or is it just like that his ego, like you're saying, where it's like his consciousness was escaping the ego through the enlightenment, and then his ego kind of got a hold of the divination to keep him down. Like, is that kind of what you were saying?
well, because really, like, in the bigger picture of things, all of these energies are connected to the darker parts of us, right? Darker parts of consciousness. So it's a little bit of both. And does he need to do something with his divination? I would right now. I would, just to help him build that confidence.
Okay.
Like, I don't, because again, it goes down to, where's your belief system? right? Would you even, because your belief system has to, even subconsciously, it has to support something to be able to have that experience, right? So I really don't feel that that is something that's at risk for him, but I would use protection just to give him a state of uh, confidence, like feeling safe, and really um, keeping his spiritual, because it's all connected. Our whole life is spiritual, and this is the thing. But it's like, where are my other pieces of life? Like, what am I focusing on? Nature, walking outside, grounding, day to day life, all of those things, because it's learning to have balance with that. And if somebody is experiencing something, so if anyone's thinking in their mind, you might have somebody in your mind or yourself wondering, is this psychosis? Is this real? Don't go to the internet looking at what that is psychosis, because the internet's going to tell you, yes, it's definitely psychosis. Don't do that. But really look logically. Find somebody else that's on the journey that maybe has a little more experience.
So, sorry, so yes, the internet said that this is psychosis, but what is spiritual psychosis? Like, is that what this was? Like, I feel like there was a moment where,
Mhm,
yes, I'm scared because my guides are saying someone's coming to get me.
mhm.
But then there was a um, leap from reality with the whole hiding out and writing the
Yes.
book where I'm not going to see my family or have, go to my job. Like there was a leap from reality with that expectation.
Yes.
So,
So that would be
like, would that
considered
be,
like a psychosis.
but a
Because it can
spiritual psychosis or a psychosis?
spiritual, spiritual, because
Okay.
this is even when we look at psychosis in general, like religious psychosis, like we get into the conversation about schizophrenia, and that a lot of that does go to a religious direction, and there's many reasons why, right? Because it has to do with the sensitivity and the openness. This particular situation with your friend, yes, I would call it spiritual psychosis, because of what he's experiencing. Is He's experiencing alternate realities. He is blending his spiritual journey, his awakening in his day-to-day life, but the energy started to take him away. Like, he was following something that felt right and felt very real, and it was not grounded in his reality, right? So
Got it.
you have to look at somebody's presentation prior to an experience and afterwards. So, I mean, I can sit here and so I'll channel some aliens, and I'll have a conversation and channel aliens with somebody or do a video or what have you. But when that's done, I still know that I'm a human being that's having a physical life, and I may experience
Yeah.
things in my life that are very hard for other people to perceive. But I'm just hearing right now, it's all about perception, and what takes you away, what creates toxicity, or what creates what's unhealthy for you. So
Yeah.
somebody else that's close to you that understands your spiritual journey or has an understanding of what you're going through, that can help ground you. That's why having somebody to share the journey with, having a friend, having a
Yeah.
partner, having a community that can help kind of bring back these experiences, help you understand them while you're going through that process, is so important. Because, if you're overcoming old patterns, you're overcoming fears, there can be a sense of escapism. So it doesn't always have to be this fear that something's happening, but is there escapism? Am I escaping into these stories or ideas and starting to make them because you might be getting truth. Here's the thing. Is there truth to a book being written? Well, that potential is there. Is there truth to you writing a book with him? Yeah, that potential is there. But it doesn't mean that it's right now in that moment. So that's the ego part of the mind creating it to a story, creating it to something that needs to happen now. It's like taking a trigger of something. And I'll tell you something else. Is there energy that doesn't want this book to come out? Well, yeah, we have polarity on the earth, and we know that there's a spiritual war within of dark and light energy. There's always polarity. So is that true? It is. But is it true that you were being hunted down in that moment? No. Do you see how tricky it can be? And if you're not
Yeah.
grounded,
Yeah.
that's why grounding and really understanding yourself. And that's the biggest lesson in all of this. Know yourself. Know yourself, your
Yeah.
beliefs. You don't have to know the outcomes of things, but be willing to hear information and sit with it. Be
Yeah.
willing to take information, write it down, set it aside. If anything is telling you urgency, that something has to be done, it has to be done in this way. If anything is giving you that message, you want to take a little time around that. Speak to a friend.
Yeah.
But if you have somebody in your life that you see a really drastic shift in, and they're not eating, they're not, they have taken themselves completely out of their life, express your concerns. But at the same time, if you're not following that same journey, or if your belief system doesn't match what they're doing, it doesn't mean what they're experiencing is wrong. It doesn't mean that it's not true. Because, like we've talked before, Maren, how can we judge anybody else's journey? Like, how could we assume when we don't have all of the information? Because as we continue to grow, we understand new things all the time. But we have to remember we are here having a physical experience. We're here to live in the
Yeah.
present. And so we have to keep bringing ourselves back to the present and continuing to do that. And so if you do have concerns about someone, look for the things that are, is this person not eating anymore? Is this person not sleeping? Really look at the facts about their day-to-day life to be able to look with care to help them through. And there are so many amazing spiritual coaches and practitioners all over the place. And, there is support, and that's why we do this. That's why, and thank you for sharing that conversation, because I think that having a conversation like this is really important, because a
Mm-hmm.
person can be in this space of, I don't know where to go, or even I'm afraid to tell the spiritual community that I'm in, or I'm afraid to tell people that I don't believe, or I think something's wrong. Right? You can really get yourself in a position where, who do I ask for help? And so it's really good to know, like, it's okay if this is happening to you. It's okay. And when you
Yeah.
get to the other side of it, like for your friend, you can really look at, okay, what happened here? Why did that happen? What did I learn from it?
Yeah.
Because he will grow and is already growing
Yeah.
from it, and will have deeper understanding of himself and this whole process.
Oh, yeah. And I don't I think it is so important to tell people and I personally, I can't speak for other people, but I personally do not judge him at all
No.
for what he went through, because through my own awakening, it is so much discernment of filtering out, okay, what is fear? What is real? What's imagination? What's, not like there's so much information coming at you so fast, and you have to discern and that's the hardest lesson. And when I would take classes, a lot of the people would say the hardest part of mediumship is letting go of the fear. because my
Yeah.
whole life I've been, afraid of the shadows in my room and the spirits and talking to me and this and that. And and like if you are coming from a fearful place with the ego, then the fear messages, it does like put a fear filter on what's coming in. And then that's obviously not for the highest good. So, um, yeah, like I totally feel for him. I totally know what he's going through. And I'm with you. Like, I think grounding when you are in that space where things are coming so fast
Yeah.
and you're enlightening and you're feeling so enlightened by everything that you're learning and hearing, the best thing to do is to ground. And so you said like walk in nature.
Yes.
There's grounding meditations,
Yeah.
so
And
much
write. Right. You
writing.
know, right.
Yeah, that's
Like
probably one of
write
the
your
best. Yeah.
experience, write what's happening,
Yeah.
write how you feel. That was I show my books all the time, my little
Yeah.
handy dandy notebooks. My
Yeah.
to be able to write my dreams and things, so I can put it down on paper and then carry on with my life, carry on with my day, and know that I've got that information there. And some things I'd go back to and be like, whoa, it's building this puzzle piece. And some things are like, okay, well, that came out. I'm not really sure where to put that. And so I just set it aside. And
Yeah.
that's the best part about our discernment is as we, are presented or find new information, if it challenges you or it doesn't make sense, set it aside. But writing, um, healthy food. Like I couldn't say more how important the basics are. Like truly how important the basics of, making sure that you're getting enough sleep, making sure that you're getting enough fluid, enough good food, nutrients, that you are monitoring your stress levels, that you're making sure that you're giving yourself what you need physically, mentally, emotionally, because that will help
Hmm.
you balance everything else. Because it is an amazing, beautiful, painful stretching process, at times, but
Yeah.
it is a miracle, all of it, and we feel like miracles all the time, but it's also, it's new for a lot of us, you know.
Okay. So, um, you have, I'm just writing all the things that you said. So, grounding,
Hmm.
discernment, and discernment
Hmm.
is I'm getting this information. Is it true? And if it is definitely an urgent one or a fear based one, you want to sit on it. Um, and is it
You want to
even
say,
like,
is it
this
true
is
for
the
me?
energy? Is it true for me? Okay. Oh, no, no, I'm going to sneeze. No. Uh, excuse me.
Bless
Sorry.
you.
Um, and then, and like, can you even say like, hey, like messages from my guides always seem like this, or they always like there's like a certain energy to it. Can you feel that through like divination? Or,
Yes.
I follow this girl on Facebook and she does divination all the time. And she says, the number one thing I do is I ground. And then I
Hmm.
always ask who I'm speaking to. Like, and it's divination. So it usually has to be like, yes, no. So am I speaking to my guides? Am I speaking to a,
Is
um,
this solar
higher
glow
being?
meditations?
Yes.
Yeah, I love watching her. I love watching. We should
Oh, I
we
just,
should see if she can come on our show sometime.
oh, that
That'd
would
be
be
fun to have
awesome.
her.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
she's what inspired me to do I can't, why am I
the
not thinking of
rod.
the word, but the rods, yes, because she does
Yeah,
it and she
yeah,
makes it look so easy and it's so fun
yeah,
and the questions people ask are
yeah,
so fun.
yeah,
Say it again
yeah.
so that people can hear. Is it solar?
Solar glow meditations. I think she's on YouTube,
Solar.
and I resonate with a lot of what she brings through. I can feel it, so I know
Yeah.
that she's legitimately bringing everything through, and she's a
Yes.
very I'm sure you can feel this too. She's very pure soul. Like she's
Yeah.
very grounded and very kind.
Yes.
Yeah, very real,
Yes. Yes.
authentic.
Yep. Um, okay, so discernment and then
Yeah,
uh letting go. And like also, I think that sometimes your ego does get in the way. Like that's why I like her, because the questions they ask her, sometimes she even struggles like reading them. Like she has no idea
yeah,
what,
yeah,
the question is. Like she doesn't have a yes or a no for it, but like, sometimes am I going to get a promotion? Yes. So I feel like sometimes your ego does get in the way. So having
yeah,
that discernment and like practicing being like really
yeah,
neutral, I think it's
yeah,
probably a lifelong skill. So,
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah,
so that's important. And then I love that you do say let go of perception, because I think you're right. As long as you're grounded in reality and you come back and you know you're of like earth world. And I even kind of said that last week, where it's like there is like this blend. Like you can go all in on the spirit world and really live on that side, or you can go all in on the physical world and really live on that side. And it's finding your perfect balance of,
yeah. That's right.
where
That's right.
you want to be.
Yeah,
And because so letting go of other people's perception, I like, because um, who is to judge someone's,
that's right.
reality,
That's
like,
right.
and that's, I tried to do that. I tried to, be like, yeah, we could totally write a book, I'm
Yeah,
up for it.
yeah,
Um, but we are on earth time. Like I can't do it and take, the next year off and do it.
yeah.
Like I'm on
That's
earth
right.
time. I've got to take my time and
That's
do it
right.
when I can do
And
it.
like just going back to like our present moment, when we relax into our present moment. So if you're getting that information, like I'm going to write a book, I'm going to do this, everything that we're given are given from potential, given from the energy potentials. And so many things can change how that happens, from meeting somebody to, um, you know, uh, something that we're going to do. Like we don't know everything or how it's all going to come together. And that's part of the trust. So we can take that information and then ask, if we don't have any more information, all right, show me the next step. Like
Yeah.
what's within
Well,
our limits, because we know synchronicity and how things come together.
yeah.
Does it feel
And we
right? Because
are
there's
our,
never a rush.
yes. Yes. And that's what I'm saying. We are our own creators. Like, I guess there is nothing stopping me from taking the year off and writing a book. I
Right,
just don't want to do that.
right,
I like my
right,
job and my kids and
right,
yeah.
right.
So,
That's right. This is the
um,
beauty about creation, about life. Like, sure, we can do all kinds of things. Do we really want to?
yeah.
How much effort are we going to put into it? Is it really what's best for us? And again, it's not what we think society thinks is best for us, or what,
Right.
my whoever, my neighbor, my whoever these people are, because no one but you has the full scope. You have the full scope of you. So
Right.
that's why getting to know all of those little, why do I react that way? Why do I do this? Why do I do that? Why doing that inner work and really digging into it helps build the confidence of knowing who you are. Because as you grow with spirit, as you grow with your relationship with source, you are co-creating. I mean, which we are anyway,
Right.
whether we're aware of it or not. We're always co-creating. But when you have that sense of, um, you don't need to know anything, or you don't need to know everything. You don't need to know all the details of how it's coming together. But when you build that confidence and that trust, everything is connected and it will pour into every area of your life. It will. And, I have days where I've actually looked and been like, if I looked at my life right now, from a different perspective, I could see how it looks ungrounded and crazy and willy-nilly and all over the place. But I'm in the best place I've ever been in my entire
Yeah.
life. You know, does that mean that there's not a whole lot going on? But that's why it's so important, because we can work at our own balance and work on our own perspective of ourselves, because that's what we
Yeah.
truly create from, not somebody else.
So why do you think, I feel bad because I feel like you wrapped us all up and put us in a good place, and now I'm going to take us back a few steps.
That's okay.
But um but like, why do you think there is an actual term like spiritual psychosis? Like, why does this happen to so many people on the spiritual path that they have actually named it spiritual psychosis? Like, why is this so prevalent?
Well, I think because, well, for one, we like to label things and put it into some kind of a box. That's really the first thing, because like anything else, we call it spiritual psychosis. We get the idea that that's going to mean that somebody looks a specific way or does it one way, but that could mean, that can mean a lot of different things. It could mean that someone's state in a quick period of time, or it could mean a long period of time, the scale of how much that is. So again, we get into that conversation. But why? Well, because when we see somebody that is outside of the reality that we've had drilled into, right? You have to remember many generations of it, and not all cultures, but many generations of the way society operates is operating in a third dimensional focus, is operating with, you have your children, or you're little, you get older, you pick a career, you go to school, you have children, you get married, whatever. It's whatever generation that is, it's like, this is what's expected of me. And when we start to move outside of those boxes, and everybody is different. So when we start to see people moving outside of that, it's fear. Because when we say the word psychosis, for many people, that brings up fear. And so that can actually be, and I've had many clients say to me, I'm afraid to go further on my path. I'm afraid because what if I can't come back? What if I get so deep into this that I'm so disconnected from reality? Well, okay. So ask yourself, what is my reality right now? Because reality is subjective. So what is my reality right now? What feels good to me right now? What feels real to me right now? What do I need to get myself feeling, we'll say, normal, our own normal? So when we see something that is considered abnormal, outside of the box, that takes somebody away, it's fear. So anyone that was calling me crazy or whatever, I know that that's rooted in fear, and rooted in fear of, I don't want to lose the Michelle that I've known. I'm scared because that's changing my reality, that changes my family, my friendship, my, all of these things. So the word psychosis brings up fear because it's fear of not being in control. So if we go back to the whole subject of, many of us have been under the control of a way of living, a way of being. And stepping outside of that is stepping into the unknown, because we weren't taught how to do that. So why is it labeled that? Well, because there are circumstances where some people do go down a rabbit hole and have difficulty pulling themselves back up. And, Eric had said to me, there's always a reason for that. We go into the soul of the individual that's experiencing that. Again, we can't judge another person's journey. We don't have any idea what their contract is or why they're experiencing what they are. What is that actually giving their soul? What learning are they doing? The word psychosis comes from the perspective of needing to label something that doesn't fit in the
Well, it's,
reality of the
it's like a
situation.
detachment of reality, right? That's the
Yeah,
definition of it. And
yeah,
then we're in a 3D reality. So if you are getting information from other realities, then you do appear to be detached from this 3D
right,
reality,
right.
So I
And
do feel like that's part of it.
it is. And if somebody was watching someone else, so if you're looking at someone else, kind of wondering, okay, are they in reality? Like, so how are they, say, in their day to day, right? So if you see somebody or somebody that you love that you think, okay, like they're way out there with some of these things, but what is their normal? Because a psychosis drips into everything. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like
that's what
into
I
your
would say. So,
relationships.
yeah, I do feel like there are two issues that we're kind of talking about.
Yeah,
There's one, people's perception of what someone going through a spiritual awakening have, right? Like you were talking about the people that didn't know you and then they saw you after you'd kind of gone through a spiritual awakening and you looked possibly like you were a little crazy
yeah,
because you're now talking to spirits, right?
yeah,
But in reality, that was a true event and you were grounded and making positive life choices for yourself and whatnot. So that's someone's perception that you're experiencing. I don't even know because I feel like my personal definition of psychosis is that it's just like short lived. And then like maybe people's perception of you is that like you're crazy because it's more long held, right? Like,
yeah.
sorry.
I laugh at it now because in a way, it's kind of funny because I know that there was a time in the beginning when I was getting so much information, I probably did appear kind of like, because I was so excited about it and I
Right.
wanted to share a lot of the things that I was learning, so it wasn't as grounded as it became. I had to really work on that over time.
Okay. Okay. Because I was going to say, like, since I have known you, I don't know when I met you. I'm trying to think back. Maybe like March of 2020, maybe. Um,
Yeah,
so
around
for
that.
four
Yeah,
years,
yeah,
yeah. So for 4 years, I've known you. 4.5 years, I've known you. And I've never once thought Michelle is going through a bout of psychosis. Like everything you've always said has
no,
been very grounded. All your
yeah,
experience have seemed very, again, grounded, as out there as they may be. Oh my gosh! Speaking of, I had a dream
yeah.
that you were channeling a leprechaun, and
Mhm.
then the leprechaun manifested, and I got to hold the leprechaun. It was like a baby leprechaun.
Isn't that
Anyways,
interesting? Okay,
super
that'll be something to go
super
into
random
another.
side note.
Yeah, okay.
Um, so even channeling leprechauns, right? Like
Yeah,
it's totally in my mind, I can
yeah,
rationalize
yeah,
what you're experiencing. Um, but like in this situation, I have to say, I do feel like there was a departure from
yeah,
like all reality because of the expectation that I would leave my family and I
yes,
would
yeah,
go in hiding
right.
to write this book. And um and I just feel like and I feel like even the fact that there were madmen to get me is almost just like um a mistaken divination, you know what
Yes,
I mean?
yes.
And so I'm not even taking that as the like lack of reality, which is I think a pretty big step. But
Like, I don't
madmen
think
can come
your
get me,
friend
but you're
was,
not taking me from my kids. That's when
yeah,
I know that you're
I
crazy.
don't think your friend
Um,
was as pulled away as maybe it may have looked because there was a lot of
okay.
trust in what he was getting in the divination.
Okay.
So it was
Okay.
like, it feels like because of everything that he experienced, there was so much trust. And so just that process and like the big thing, the lesson in not overusing the divination.
Okay.
That's a
Okay.
real big one.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel a lot better. So I can buy that. Like there was
Hmm.
a lot of trust in the divination technique because of how much healing it did
Yes.
provide for him. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
I would 100% get that.
And that
Um,
experience that he had, like to go through that amount of feeling, same for myself, to go through a mass amount of feeling and to feel incredibly better, to be able to feel like to walk in this world without feeling like my emotions are pulling me everywhere is like night and day for me. Huge difference. So I can imagine for him, that the health and the just being able to feel better. That is that is such an amazing experience that it's kind of like he's stepping into this next level, this next level,
yeah.
and there has to be time for integration as well. So we
Okay.
can get really excited and want to jump into the next. Like, okay, now what's next? What will I do next? But we have to really give ourselves time to integrate because otherwise we start to create these little spirals of energy that we can get caught in where our mind is, all over the place. So that's just part of a learning process too.
Okay. So in conclusion, in conclusion, so I don't think then that he had a psychosis episode. I do think that he was just truly trusting
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
his guides and saying this is what's best for us. Um, do you think there is such a thing as spiritual psychosis, or is it all just a big misunderstanding from the outside's perspective?
I think that, well, because, if it's hard to group everybody into the same thing. Is there such a thing? I don't know that I would want to label it as something like that because I do think that there are individuals are that have mental illness that tend to go into a grandiose detachment from reality. I think that is a very
Mm,
fine line because, you know,
mm,
Eric shared a lot with me over the years about mental illness and what really the truth of that is. But at the same time, he also taught me not to ignore, that there are things there that need to be treated that people are going through. So there is a fine line there where mental illness can blend with like religious ideology and grandiose
yeah,
ideas and so I
yeah,
do believe that. But I think that having this topic of spiritual psychosis is very misunderstood. I think
yeah,
that it's not, there's a lot of labels that get thrown out, and that's what creates the fear and creates a lot of these kind of pockets of just like exactly with your friend. Um, that's really scary. And looking from the outside, if you didn't have the knowledge that you do and the experience that you do, that can be very frightening to somebody to see their loved one go through that. And somebody who's very grounded and otherwise, it's like, well, what is going on here? But there's a real conversation here with mental health as well. And if we were to look
yeah,
at your friend, like where is the mental state prior to the experience?
yeah.
That
I would
tells
say,
me
well, I think that's,
that it's not real psychosis.
yeah, I think that's what was so scary was that he's a really stable guy. So really critical thinker and, kind of moves slow with information,
Yeah,
um, thinks on things, and he is a real grounded guy. So it was
yeah,
very, you know, like literally one of the nicest guys I know. There's no ups and
yeah,
downs. There's
yeah,
no real true mental health issues prior
yeah.
to the event.
The biggest lesson is never, never, never judge. Never really put a label on something that you might not truly fully understand. Never underestimate our own power. The power of the mind. But of all things, the practice of knowing ourselves and keeping ourselves balanced will allow us to be able to walk through any of these types of experiences and be able to do it. And if anyone is feeling, as you're listening to this, that you might have experienced something like this, share it with us, or reach out to somebody, because it's challenging to go through these things alone. But sometimes having that other person to kind of explain it to you or help guide you that may have already been through it will really help clear a lot up. Because it's not something that, we experience over and over and over. Once we have an experience that's kind of like, oh, okay, I get, what was happening here. We don't need to experience it again. We don't have to repeat that lesson again.
What'd you just say?
I said, once we go through that experience, we don't necessarily have to experience that again. We don't necessarily have to have that lesson
again. Okay.
when we understand why it happened.
Okay.
We're
Sorry.
holding
You didn't
out.
freeze or
Hopefully the
anything.
recording is holding out perfect.
No, it is. You didn't freeze. You just kind of like got really quiet with your voice, and I probably should turn the volume up on my computer so I can hear you. So, okay, cool. So it's really important to ground. It's really important to use discernment. Don't worry about other people's perceptions. Move forward. And I feel like time, you hit on time. When things start going really fast, just know you're on Earth. Do Earth time. You got to take time to integrate, is what you said. You got to take time to let everything integrate. Okay.
Yep.
And
everything has to marinate.
Right. And that this is a big step, and that this is not a step backwards. This is a step forward.
Yes.
And it was valuable because it taught many lessons. And so, I like that. That's good. And I do think, it'll help him with just kind of maybe like shedding the old self and becoming his new self. So
that's right. That's
change, right? That's how you started it.
Change. That's right. And change is not always comfortable, but it's good. It's good because it always brings so much better if we allow it.
I love it. Well, thank you for listening to my story, Michelle, and giving me so much
that was good.
Good advice.
That was a really
make me
important
feel
conversation.
It makes me feel a lot better about the situation because I was very worried. So, but now I'm feeling really good. So
good.
That's good. Hopeful.
Awesome.
For the future. So, all right.
All right.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. It's good to see everybody here tonight, and we're back on schedule. So it was so good to see you again this weekend. I feel like everything's getting back to normal. Getting back to normal. All right, everybody. Have a great week. A wonderful week. We'll see you here next Monday.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.